Fresh killer.
What up, tribe? I'm on the line with the sister from around the way named Alana Randall, who happens to be a licensed marriage and family therapist, but she just Fifi from from the block, to be like right now, but she does have more experience with the topic of open marriage, which we're going to talk about right now. She has way more experience than the average person, right? And so I have ideas, I have feelings about this phenomenon. And I say a phenomenon because it seems to be getting more popular in the public and in the celebrity spectrum, right? Will and Jada are doing a lot of interviews and talking about the intricacies of their marriage. We had Tip and Tiny, who are in a very famous Tip, and his wife are in an open marriage. Who else? We had a rapper Kevin Gates in an open. A lot of people. It just seems to be. It's not a new thing, but it just seems to be really taking off in our community in the public eye. And I just wanted to speak to you about my goodness, what do you think about this? Is this a positive thing? Is this a negative thing? What's your take on open marriages?
So again, I just want to reiterate that right now I'm just Falana, who just happens to be a therapist. I am in no way trying to present myself as an expert because I just want to be respectful of the community and all of the specifics and nuances involved. So my ideal is okay. So while I do have experience in my personal life and in my professional life to polyamory and open relationships, I want to be clear that I am not an expert. So this is just me talking as my opinion. My thinking is that you're right. It's definitely not anything new. It's something that's been going on for a really long time. And I think that it is more common than we would like to believe. Excuse me. I think it's more common. Let me rephrase that. It's more common than we know, but it's not as common as society and media is really pushing hard to make us believe.
Mm.
So, um, it reminds me of what happened with Cosmo, like years ago, like decades ago, and even more recent. I know like more of that has been debunked recently. That a lot of those articles that came out in Cosmopolitan were not accurate and they were misleading lots of women
What
for
what
different
what happened?
reasons.
What happened with that? I'm not familiar with that. What happened with Cos? What is that? What happened?
Well, how certain people that were writers and editors for Cosmo, they were presenting stories that were to sell magazines,
Mhm.
not to actually help women. They
Oh.
were presenting more of a kind of this thing, like this facade as far as for what they wanted, and it steers society in a certain way. And now if you look around, we're dealing with the effects of that. So like what I can say specifically is like if you think about what you've noticed during the pandemic, you watched a lot of relationships that maybe some people got closer, some relationships didn't quite make it. As a matter of fact, a lot of relationships didn't make it during the pandemic because it put a lot of pressures on couples and it revealed raw spots that they weren't really recognizing. I
Mhm.
believe that there are a significant number of people that are polyamorous. And again, there are different subsets within polyamory that, just different definitions, but there are different people who try out polyamory. And it's kind of like, it puts me in the mind of, experimenting with cocaine or other drugs during college. There's the perception or the observation that a lot of women, because our sexuality is much more fluid, that women push our boundaries with our sexuality during college. And I think what tends to happen is that for some people they actually are polyamorous and this is an actual lifestyle for them. That is a population, like that is a portion of our population.
Mhm.
I think there's another portion of people who are pushing the perception that polyamory is much more common than it actually really is, when
Mhm.
it tends to be more of an experimental phase to see how can you manage the intimacy, how can we work through whatever intimacy issues that I'm dealing with as an individual, but also what we may be dealing with as a couple.
Okay. So in a marriage though, like in a marriage, when we see, and we should not put celebrities on a pedestal, they are not gods, they are humans just like you and I. But we do. We totally do. Like they're just influential people. They set the trends, they set the norms, they set the standards, especially in America. And so if we see this become more common in this celebrity world, and I'm talking about Black people on our side of the tracks, then I know there are a certain amount of people that have a high sex drive, always has been, always will be, and people that lust for other people, of course. But won't that impact how people view their marriages if more celebrities are shown engaging in polyamory? And let me say this though, before I know you ready to go, but let me let
I'm
me say
locked and
this.
loaded.
Just like my stance is this, just so we'll be just like totally out in the open. My stance on it is, man, what happened to cheating? Like, what happened to good old fashioned cheating, right? And I mean, cheating is bad, like because you're cheating on your significant other, you're cheating on your husband or wife, whatever, right? But my thing is like, yo, like marriage, there are rules and guidelines. You did do it in a church with a religious figure at the helm.
Maybe,
But
maybe,
more
maybe.
often than not, though, like Falana, like for the most part, people get married by a pastor in this country. For the most part, people get married in a church. And what I'm saying is that we all have temptations, period, right? But it's like when you kind of say, okay, so we don't have temptations, we're just going to make this is going to be cool. You know what I mean? Like Tiny and T.I., like we gonna go out the club, we gonna pick them out. What do you like? Yo, you shouldn't be married if you picking out chicks to take home the club. That's me. Maybe I'm rigid, maybe I'm old fashioned, but that's my stance, Phoebe. What say you?
So you're old fashioned. There's nothing wrong with being old fashioned, right?
uh,
As you were talking, it just makes me think of like, what are we noticing about billionaires? What do we notice about celebrities? They do things a little different than the rest of us, right?
okay.
If you think about a couple or a celebrity couple, the shelf life of their relationship.
Okay.
They run through the stages very quickly or maybe slower and they drag things out, and because of the complications of what their lifestyles may be, they find different ways to manage it. The same
Mhm.
way billionaires, I don't know that are you planning to buy a spaceship and go into space?
I might.
Maybe if you were so inclined, but right now you're not a billionaire, so that's not anything that's necessarily on your mind. I think celebrities and excessively wealthy people, they just do things different, a little different than most common people. I think that for a lot of people, most people, not excuse me, I don't want to say most people because I know that's going to be relative to my stance and what I tend to see around me, but a significant amount of people don't have the capacity to be emotionally available, have the psychological bandwidth to satisfy one partner.
Mm,
So, how do you split that up between multiple people?
psychological bandwidth. Let me.
And like you said, celebrities tend to have a lot of power. Celebrities tend to have a lot of influence. If you regard this person like, oh my gosh, I love this person as an artist, and ooh, they're taking a stance against this. Oh, they're promoting that. You're more likely to be inclined to align yourself with their vision, or
Right.
even try to play out what they're doing. Like,
Mm,
if you go to certain places and you see the way certain people are dressed and what certain people are doing, it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense for when you're watching it on TV, but when you see it in real life, it's just kind of like, oh wow, this is a lot. This is
okay.
this is a lot. What
Right.
we see on TV and
Right.
media doesn't always translate to what is typical in real life, even though art is, influencing culture the same way culture is influencing art.
Right. So what you're saying is that it may look cool, like you got your pick of people, and you can go home with who you want to go home with and whatever. But like you need to ask yourself some real questions because it's harder than it looks.
Mhm. Now that's real. Now that's real. One thing I will definitely say is that, again, there are lots of people that are polyamorous and they commit to the lifestyle and they find ways to make it work because they just have so much love to share. They just have so many resources to share. But that is not the case for a lot of people. If you think about men who tend to be very tunnel vision, mission oriented with their goals, how do you satisfy your wife and then your girlfriend and then your other girlfriend? I know in lots of cultures it's like, oh, you can have as many wives as you can afford. Well, how many partners can you afford through intimacy?
Mm.
Do you have what it takes to offer multiple people intimacy, or do you have your wife and your family, and then you have your girlfriend or your other partner, and the other partner is just there to just absorb the sloppy remnants or the sloppy residual of what you have left to offer
Mm.
from your primary relationship, the relation, like after work, after your primary relationship, after other any children or dependents that you might have related to the relationship. Lots of people have experimented with different versions of polyamory, right? And like I know a really common way will be group sex or menage a trois and things like that. Whereas, are you the guest star, or is this your primary relationship that you're inviting someone into that relationship? And I can definitely say that for a lot of people, the excitement of that is far more exciting than what it really is, depending on where you stand with it, right? So, like, if you think about the most common examples
Mhm.
of it, what is the most common example of polyamory that you can think of? Where does your mind go?
My mind goes to two things. Two things came up for me. Well, my mind first goes to Will and Jada, but when you said the thing about it's not always what it's cracked up to be, I thought about Amber Rose, who talked about being involved with being invited into someone else's bedroom, and she was just like, it how do I put this, some of the things she didn't like it, right? She was just like, it was like a lot of work, it was a drag, you had to change condoms and stuff like that. Like basic
It's a
essential
whole
things,
thing. It's a
right?
whole thing. It's not like what it looks. It's not always what it looks like on TV and in movies.
Right. So two things, Amber Rose and Will and Jada, that's where my mind goes to answer your question.
Okay. Okay. So even like what you described, my thought is that at least when it comes to group sex is oftentimes, or at least where people's minds usually go, will be like one guy, two women.
Mhm.
Because what is the reverse? Two men and one guy, that takes you to a different place. But even just in that particular dynamic, it's just physical. No one's really looking for it to be anything more than what it is in that moment. And depending on where you are in that circumstance, you may find yourself incredibly dissatisfied.
Mhm.
So you might think, oh my gosh, this woman is beautiful, and oh my gosh, my partner's attracted to this woman also. But when you actually get into the situation, you have to feel whatever you have to deal with, whatever those feelings are from watching your partner with another woman.
Ooh.
Again, I'm not saying that there aren't lots of people who actually, and I forget, I can't think of the word right now, but there's an actual word of that vicarious excitement that you get, that vicarious pleasure that you get from watching your partner
Uh-huh.
feel sexually excited, or feel sexual bliss, right? There is a word for that, and that is a very real thing. And again, for a lot of people can't handle that the way they think they can. And then when you think about the reverse of being the guest star, right? Like, oh, okay, I don't have to deal with the mess. I don't have to deal with the jealousy. I don't have to deal with any of that. So you still have to deal with whatever stuff may be happening in their relationship. And so now you're just there to just absorb whatever gunk they may have to offer. And if
Mm.
you think about the male partner, right? The male partner, what happens when he has his partner and this extra person? Oh, what do most men do? They get really fixated on the status quo. So Chris Rock made a joke about this years ago. Like, with whatever you do with a man, you have to be ready to match that on a regular basis, because that's the new standard. Oh, it's all three of us. Okay, well, that's kind of what sex probably wants. Even if it doesn't look like that every time, this is kind of what I'm looking for with sex often.
Okay. Okay. Um, yeah, um, so is it most people, let me choose my words correctly. Most people cannot sustain that. It's not a good idea. Logically, it's not. Open marriages, open relationships, polyamory is not good for most people. In your experience, just Fifi from around the way, you're just like, for the most part, not cool.
So what I will say is the level of security that is necessary to engage in open relationships or polyamory,
Uh-huh.
most of us just don't have what it takes. Most of us just don't have it. Most of us are still just like, ugh, how do I satisfy just this one person? How do I balance my life? How do I make sure that I have energy to get home and get down on the floor and play with these children after I get off work? But
Ooh.
like, and it's interesting how you'll get into a polyamorous relationship and you'll just think, oh my goodness, you'll think about all these potential benefits of it. But then when you're actually in it, too often what you find out is that now you're just more disappointed by not just one, but two or three or more people.
Oh, damn.
Okay, so like, okay, think about hookup culture. Think about hookup culture.
Okay.
Who does that tend to benefit? Who does hookup culture tend to benefit more?
I don't know the answer to that. I think you want me to say men, but
Don't say it because you think that's what I want to hear.
I think hookup culture benefits people fresh out of relationships. I think
Yep,
hookup culture
you're not wrong
benefits
about that.
people. Yeah, hookup culture benefits people who just want to people who are traveling. I think it benefits people that don't want something serious, and people that know that they might not have the emotional bandwidth, as you stated. You better copyright that because I might use it. But like but people that know that they don't have that yet, but still want some form of intimacy. I think
Mhm.
hookup culture benefits all of those people.
But you notice also what you said, where like those were transitional periods in a person's life.
Mhm.
And even when you think about, yeah, I'm like Gabrielle Union mentioned this when she was like talking about like the fuck boys that she looked at when like they were all in her phone when she went through her divorce. It was like, yeah, yeah, that's exactly what she wants. But the thing though is that she likely had to get to a place where she could even handle that. Again, I'm not trying to speak for Gabrielle Union.
Mhm.
I'm not trying to speak for Gabrielle Union or Will Smith or Jada Pinkett Smith or whoever else, but I'm saying that for most people, when you're freshly out of a relationship, there is a grieving period that you have to go through. And
Yeah.
when you might think that this fleeting thing with this person is going to, make you feel good in the moment. But sometimes for some people, depending on how fresh the wound is, it just makes you more vulnerable to hurts and disappointment. There's a really great article in Psychology Today. It's called Ambiguous Relationships, The
Mhm.
Endless Breakup. And it really speaks to how damaging
Mhm.
hookup culture actually tends to be on women, because women tend to be more emotionally available. And even if sometimes, again, not all the time, but sometimes even when you are approaching a situation with a casual intent, you just kind of get open, you get vulnerable, you get raw, you want to be close, you want to cuddle with this person, and you're just trying to hook up. But again, going back to the Cosmo piece,
Mhm.
that was a big part of the controversy, is that Cosmopolitan really pushed this idea of all this open sex and all the sex that different women were having, but it was under very specific conditions
Mhm.
that they were really trying to normalize to the rest of culture. And if you live in a rural environment, hookup culture is probably not going to serve you as well as someone who lives in Manhattan.
Mm. Okay. All right. All right. When did
Like,
Cosmo
we're
drop?
still human.
When did Cosmo drop this article? When were they?
Well, no, this one, I don't believe this was an article in Cosmo. This has
It
been
was a phase. It was things that
it was a
it
phase
was several.
exactly from decades ago, like
Yeah.
since the sexual revolution of what they were presenting to women. And so other people have covered this. Other people that were part of Cosmopolitan staff have spoken out to say, yeah, we were really just trying to sell magazines.
Right.
And it's been painfully dreadful for a lot of women, and it's left a lot of men confused, because okay, so then let's bring it back to why we're both here, right?
Let's do it.
And why anyone who's tuning in, I cannot wait to hear what people say in the comment section. But
Drop a comment right now.
it's
Drop a comment.
it feels like another thing that threatens the Black family.
What specifically feels like another thing that threatens the Black family?
This overemphasis, or should I say this hyper focus on really trying hard to over normalize polyamory. And I say over normalize because, as a human being living in this world, I would love it. I would love it if people who are polyamorous would be more open about who they are, so that people can understand that, yeah, normal human being that just likes to, your sexual appetite is just looks different. Your intimacy appetite just looks different. When I say over normalize and over generalize, what I mean is the huge population of men that are attached that are overselling the fact that they're in an open relationship or open marriage.
Mhm.
So too often what I've, and I can't speak for other places, I will speak for what I've noticed here in California, people around me, is that men will misrepresent themselves that, oh yeah, we're in an open relationship, I have an open marriage, blah, 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 blah. And what they're really doing is just cheating.
Ooh. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay. That reminded me of Insecure, that one season, the show Insecure, when the guy said he was in a, remember the guy who Molly was hooking up with, the old friend, and then he said that he was,
Oh, of course, yes.
right,
Wait, wait. Now you said that remind you of it. Do you think that he was cheating?
it never, they were supposed to get to that, but they never did, I think, because the guy got kicked off the show. So I don't know.
Oh, is
But
that what happened? Dro.
yeah,
That
he
was his
got a
name,
girl.
Dro.
Dro really got one of the actors pregnant on the set, and like he got kicked off of the show. But I want to reel it
Okay.
on back in. A lot of popular culture references. Let me reel it back in. That's where my brain went. But when you say men are overselling, black men, we're talking about black men here, are overselling open relationships when really they're just cheating, does that mean that because what does that mean in terms of them communicating this behavior to their, why are they not communicating that at all? Or does she feel like bullied into letting him do something extra because he's going to do it anyway? How is that not clear?
I think it's all of the above.
Okay.
I think it's all of the above. I think it's that, some women, real talk, and I feel very confident saying this. Most black women aren't really down for that.
Okay.
But what do we tend to recognize is that a lot of black women will tolerate and accept a man's extracurricular activities, just as long as he's still holding it down at home and doing the things that he needs to do. Now, what their communication about that may be open. It may be a little ambiguous about it. Like this idea, like even think about old school relationships where the husband will have another family that lives down the street, but for all intents and purposes, this is the family. This is who he shows up to church with. This is who he pays his bills to. But he does the other things to try to provide for the other family. I'm saying that now there's another modern version of that. That's women who they know their partners are cheating. Like look at Love and Basketball. Love and Hip Hop. That's what I was trying to say. Love and Hip Hop. Oh, and Love and Basketball. No, not Love and Basketball.
That
Basketball
was the
Wives. That's
father.
what I'm
Well, the
thinking.
father was cheating in Love and Basketball, but he had the illegitimate child in the movie Love and Basketball. But Love and Hip Hop, go ahead.
Right, but I wasn't. No, excuse me. I misspoke. I wasn't meaning Love and Basketball. I was
Love and Hip
actually
Hop.
meaning Basketball Wives and Love and Hip Hop, where they know that they're cheating. Oftentimes, they just kind of tolerate it because that's the compromise to be in the relationship. Lots of professional athletes. Exactly. Like basically, I'm willing to accept this because I get all of this other.
Mhm.
And sometimes because there's a conversation in society now that's really pushing normalizing polyamory, which I am 1,000% in support of, I think there, like anything else, there's a population of people that are taking advantage of that and using that as a way to say that, oh, yeah, we are in an open marriage. Well, does your wife know that you're in an open marriage? Because there is no cheating. There's no such thing as cheating in an open marriage. When you're engaging in polyamory, there are very specific rules, and it's different for every couple, but the couple has to decide what those rules are. If there's no communication around one partner's extracurricular activities and the other partner is prioritizing home, that's not really a polyamorous relationship. That's one person allowing behavior or looking the other way, to the, being in denial about what it is because they're compromising just to be in a relationship. And so that's one segment. I think there's another portion where women will just want to be with that person. And so they will compromise as a way to say, okay, I'm okay with polyamory. I'm okay with this open relationship just as long as I get to have you. And again, too many of these things are things that further threaten a woman's self esteem and self worth, her self image, but also it threatens the Black family.
Mm-hmm.
because we, you know, I mean, we struggle enough. We tend to have enough attachment trauma. We tend to have enough, you know, complex generational trauma. We really don't need any too many other complications. And I'm not saying that's for every black family. I'm just saying that generally speaking, for a lot of black families, we tend to deal with a lot of attachment trauma. And so we're doing all these different things, these dances to try to figure our way through attachment when we may or may not have had appropriate experiences of attachment growing up. And so we just start acting that out in intimacy and adult romantic intimacy.
Mm, 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 mm. So polyamory you're in support of, but open marriages, it sounds like you're not for that at all. Is that?
No, 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 that's not what I'm saying. I'm
Well,
saying
it just
when it's
threatens.
very clear.
It
Well, no,
threatens.
when it's very clear, when both partners have wholeheartedly made a conscious choice that this is what we're doing, or this is what we're going to at least try for this season. Sometimes it's, you know, that's the last, you know, that's the Hail Mary before it's time to call it quits. And
Right.
so, um, you know, if that's what both partners agree to, hey, I'm all for it if both partners agree to it. What I don't love is one partner forcing it or imposing it upon the other partner, and the other partner either not knowing about it, that it's a thing happening, or they're just choosing to just accept it, even though it's really making them miserable and they're suffering a silent sorrow.
Mm, okay.
And it shows up in other ways because then the extra partner will feel that rejection from the partner who's compromising.
Okay. So in terms of Will and Jada, who I think are the most famous example of an open marriage, it seems as though um, he is. So you talked about it normally benefiting a man, and I understand that they are both, they are both whatever doing their thing. Just Jada got really caught up with the August Alsina situation.
See it,
And
I'm not really familiar with that. I don't keep up as many pop culture references I've made. I don't really keep up with a lot of celebrity stuff.
no,
So,
it's
but
fine.
so I'm not really sure on what that whole August Alsina thing was, but I remember hearing the story. I remember hearing that it was a thing, just not knowing exactly what it was.
Well, it was a thing. August Alsina is an R&B singer and
Right, right, right.
was introduced to Jada by Jada's son. He was addicted to drugs and he was in very bad shape, and she brought him back to health. And from then, a relationship ensued that she felt like was, I guess, just physical. August Alsina was all in emotionally, spiritually, like that was his one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
he had, I think, moved into their home, and all like it was serious to him. She didn't look at it as she looked at it as kind of like a fling. It just got real mad. He started doing interviews and so on and so forth and all that, right? And so it seems like the way that people respond to the Will and Jada situation is that it seems like Will is made to look worse. Will is made to look very bad, and Jada is like kind of doing her thing. It seems to be flipped. I'm not in their bedroom. I don't know everything that's happening, but just from the interviews and from the things that I've received on my end, the things that I've seen, right? And so I'm wondering how does that change things if it's the woman who seems to be, she's doing her thing, she's having fun, and it seems like, Will is the person that is, it's just not a good look for him. I just want to put what do you think about that situation in general? Like, uh, I don't know what to make of it. I don't have the experience that you have. I know how I feel, but like, what do you think about their marriage?
I don't know enough about their marriage. Like what you were just sharing, like you just gave me a lot of insight that I didn't really know about their marriage. But it's interesting hearing what you just shared, given an article that you had also sent me about this exact same topic, but it was really as it pertained to Tupac.
Hmm.
Like it wasn't a thing that I wasn't aware that Will was coming out as being like the, ooh, poor Will, how is this happening, like not like anything like that, but just sort of like he's the one being done dirty. Like I didn't realize that that was the perception in society right now.
Yeah.
So that just like, ooh, that hit me, that hit that like that, I'm sorry, I'm processing that. But I think that's really interesting given the article that you sent me about initially his jealousy of Tupac,
Hmm.
like
And he wrote about that
Jada and
in his
Tupac's
book. He wrote about
relationship.
that in his recent book as well. Like that really
Mhm.
bothered him, the relationship
Mhm.
that he had with Tupac. Yeah.
Mhm. And so, from what it sounds like, based on what you just said, and again, I don't know enough about their marriage to know. I know that it had been rumored that they were polyamorous even years ago, like back in the '90s, before it was even
Right.
popular. People were talking about that. But you know what? Guess what? They were also celebrities and rich people back in the '90s. So that's the thing, right? But even okay, so let's go back to the example of like the Tupac thing. It seems like the intimate connection that they had felt like it was threatening to him.
Hmm.
If they had been physical, maybe that had been a different thing. But what it sounds like was that he was more jealous of the intimate connection that they had. And I've had that kind of experience where I have been the problematic person with like having a man that's the best friend,
Mm.
and realizing that I am an issue in each of his relationships. I'm not trying to be, I didn't want to be, but what was happening was his partners were jealous of the intimacy, the safety, the connection that we had, and the way we interacted, and there wasn't anything physical. It was really just, it was really just the intimate connection. And it's kind of like when you hear like, oh, well, if he's flirting, but he's making her laugh. That's a different type of flirt, right? And it's like it's this thing that you don't really want to siphon off. You don't want to see your partner making some other woman laugh, right? That like, ooh, it hits you right here, like, the hell is he? I don't know. Is he? I was like, he ain't that funny. Like, what is she laughing at? Like like it hits you somewhere. And so, like, if you think about what men need, it's like he may be okay with the physical aspect, but that intimate point wasn't okay for him. Obviously, he accepted it. This is a really good friend of hers, but it made him feel some kind of way. So even if you think about the August Alsina thing, it sounds like August Alsina was experiencing that bond very differently than she was. She was looking at like, oh, this is like a, I hate to say it, I'm not trying to devalue him as a person, but this is a toy that we get to have in the house, or I get to have in the house, and this is fun and convenient and that sort of thing.
Right. A
And he
walking
had this,
dildo. Yes.
what'd you say?
A walking dildo. Yes.
A walking dildo. Sure. Um, yeah, a walking thing, exactly. Um, and that's all she saw it as, even though she could love him as a human. She could do this thing where she helped uplift him, helped him through this journey of healing and sobriety to get him to a different place.
Mhm.
But that was just love as a human, right? She didn't have that romantic, I love you, I'm willing to leave my husband for you, or anything like that. I'm not saying that that's what he wanted, but I'm just saying that if she had had a different type of intimacy with August Alsina, that may have been a little bit more threatening to Will. Because maybe the case is that their arrangement is that it needs to just be physical, but you can't fall in love with another person. I don't know. I'm just saying this based on what you just said.
Okay. Wow. So, I know this is hard, but given that we don't know, we only know about their marriage what's being like reported, right?
Mm-hmm.
But with that situation, can you see in open marriage being successful long term, period, with anyone? Can you really make that work for the long term if there are kids involved and all? What how often does that work versus how often does it not work?
So I think that anything is possible.
Yeah.
I think that anything is possible. I will say though that the only example of a long-term healthy, based on as far as we know, example of that I know is Will and Jada.
Mm.
And
Health.
again, And so that's what. So I say that with nothing but love and nothing but respect to whatever that what their bond is. I'm just saying that again, we never know what's going on behind closed doors in any relationship. So that part. But what I'm saying though is that in my experience, people who are in long-term polyamorous relationships, they tend to be quite miserable for
Oh,
various reasons, but they tend to be quite miserable. It's like from what I've witnessed, what I've experienced, it tends to be more of a transitional kind of thing. It's this it's like experimenting with cocaine and drugs in college. It's this thing that you want to try to see what your boundaries are, see what you feel in it. But it's not. It's a nice place to visit, but you don't necessarily want to live there. You might think you do, but when the harsh realities of what it actually means for you, your intimacy, what your attachment needs really are, that you may or may not even be giving yourself full access to, non-monogamy is the way to explore that, but it's not always a long-term thing because we're still humans and we attachment is an essential sanctuary for life, to sustain life.
Absolutely. Well, listen, hey, you all might think that polyamory and open marriages, it looks good and the idea is enticing, but you need to ask yourself some hard questions. And chances are, according to Falana from around the way, who just so happens to be a therapist, it probably won't work for you. All right. Okay, for sure. Appreciate the combo. Hey, I heard you got some things popping off, man. What's up, man? How can people access your brand? What's happening?
I do. So you can find out about everything that I'm doing at my website, falanarandall.com. And I have a book that's in the finishing stages that I'm really excited to share with the world. It's called Becoming the Female Hunter. It's a passion project that I've been really excited to do, and it's taken me a while to get to this point. And so I'm just so relieved to be at this point now because it's taken quite a bit of time. But also I had to go through my own journey that helped the book be what it is now. So I'm really excited to share it. I'm also going to be doing a radio show called Falana Says.
Ooh.
It is about inspiring Black girls into their truest lioness energy, and essentially kind of moving us away from this. I don't want to do a doorknob thing at the end, but this toxic femininity that we're noticing in our culture, and that's become
that's next
outlandishly prevalent with Black women. I can't speak for. I'm not talking about other groups right now. I'm not talking about what's in dominant culture. I'm talking about within Black families, within Black households, this toxic femininity that's actually a little damaging. And also, I have a Black Friday special for the She Group, self-healing and empowerment group for Black women. That'll be starting Monday, January 24th. And I have a Black Friday sale, an early bird special that's that's going until December 14th. So check that out.
Oh my God, that's what's up. You got so many things on the horizon. Next episode, we got to talk about toxic femininity. Because that's something I want to hear you. I want to hear you preach on that. So listen, tribe, you know what it is. Please reach out to Falana, support her and everything that she has going on. Like this, comment on this, and of course, subscribe to the tribe.
Subscribe to the tribe.
Peace, tribe.